Welcome to the Casual Birder podcast. I'm Suzy Buttress. As a casual birder, I take pleasure in watching the wild birds around me, wherever I am. In my show, I share the joy of birding. I tell you about the birds I've seen, speak with experts and enthusiasts, go on bird outings, and I share stories from birders around the world. This episode continues the series of my birding diaries of 2025, where I review my birding outings and the species seen each month. My husband John joins me this time to talk about the birds we saw in February. For this episode, I'm trying something new. I recorded the episode on Zoom and have published it on my YouTube channel. I've also inserted video and photos of the birds we saw. If you'd prefer to watch the video, you'll find the link in the episode notes. The main audio content of this episode is exactly the same in both formats. If you watch the video, do let me know what you think of it. And if you'd like to see all of my birding diaries this year be produced in the same way, leave a comment on YouTube or send me a message using the contact page on my website casualbirder.com. And now, on with the episode. I'm trying to keep a birding diary throughout the year, so each month I'll review the birds that I've seen. As John and I sometimes go out birding separately, some of the birds that he's seen will be different to mine. We started listing a couple of years ago, which means that we keep records of the birds that we see on each of our outings, and we have a kind of gentle competition between us about what birds we've seen. So sometimes John will see more birds than me because he's gone out on more trips, or just when we're out birding together, we bird at different paces. So sometimes I'll stay behind looking at a particular bird, watching its behaviours or trying to get that perfect photograph that I never get. And John will walk on, and that invariably means he usually sees birds that I miss because by the time I get there, they've gone. But that's the way it is. What's your favourite phrase, John, when it comes to me staying behind?
The phrase that comes to mind is "you snooze, you lose," but I'm not sure that's appropriate because you're not really snoozing, are you?
No, I'm pausing, but you can't say you pause, you lose, so it doesn't really work. We'll have to find a new phrase. So in January 2024, we started the year hoping that we would complete a 200 bird year. And that's a sort of little challenge to try to see 200 bird species throughout the year. And it's actually quite difficult. It's pretty easy to get to 100 if you go to the right locations or you start early enough in the year to get various birds that are around at the beginning of the year. But we tried it, and we started, as you'll have heard if you heard the episode with Ajay Tegala, In Search of Hen Harriers. That was the first day of 2024 that we recorded that, and we did a really good day of birding that day. So we started our 2024 year list off really well. This year, in January 2025, we started the first week in Australia, which was fantastic, but it meant that by the time we got home, we were a bit behind already on our year's birding list. So I ended up January on just 54 species, whereas the previous year I'd got 105 by the end of January. So I was like well on my way to the 200 bird year. This year was a bit slower. So February came around and we were both keen to get out birding and see as many species as we can. Now, although we're listers, I don't feel that we're just kind of tick, tick, tick kind of birders. We enjoy making a list every time we go out, and we list our birds on eBird, which means that we're sharing our sightings with the eBird database, which is then used by researchers and scientists around the world. It's a fantastic database, and we're sort of contributing to community science by submitting our records there. But it also gives us the opportunity to review our sightings and keep regular track of what we've seen. And it's really interesting. I know that some of the listeners, so for example, members of our community group, Rob and Alison, are out birding almost all the time. And they manage to keep lists down to the week level, trying to see at least 50 bird species a week. I don't think we're ever going to be able to manage that. We're just not out birding enough. But our weekends have become a really great time to go birding, And we generally go out to at least one of our local birding sites to see how many birds we can see. John, do you know how many bird species you saw in January? So just so that we've got the sort of base setting of where you started February.
I was up to 59 if I just look at the UK and exclude the Australia birds.
Yeah. Okay. So I was on 54. So you'd obviously managed to see a few more species than me already at that time of year. The first weekend of February, we went down to the watercress beds near Alresford in Hampshire. What birds have we seen there before that make this an exciting place to go?
One of the most reliable places we know for green sandpiper. There aren't too many places where we see those. So, yeah, we've managed to see those on this visit. One of the rarer birds that we have, I think we've only seen there once actually, is water pipit. We didn't manage to see water pipit on that visit. It's also strangely really good for red-legged partridge. There's a kestrel that always seems to be perched on the same wire, telegraph wire. So we saw that. I think we saw grey wagtail and pied wagtail, and lots and lots of meadow pipits. So we did. I think we spent some time trying to look through the meadow pipits to see if any of them were water pipits, but alas, not on this occasion.
You mentioned about the green sandpiper, and I think there were 3 there this time, which is quite surprising because the watercress beds are they look a little bit barren. They're just like a concrete holding tanks, I guess, where watercress is grown and it's harvested for human consumption, I'm assuming. But the birds are able to, they're attracted to it. And we've seen lots and lots of red kites hanging around the area, sitting on the fence posts. In the past, we've also seen and heard black-headed gulls and Mediterranean gulls. And in fact, I think it was last year when we realised that we were hearing, was it there that we realised we were hearing Mediterranean gulls? We certainly heard them, but maybe at that point we didn't know they were Mediterranean gulls. We just thought that they were black-headed gulls with just doing a different call.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it was only maybe a couple of weeks later down at Keyhaven and Pennington that we realised that particular call, which kind of goes, no, yeah, no, yeah, is quite different from the screech that you get from black-headed gulls. And we realised that we'd been hearing Mediterranean gulls. So I think this trip, when we went to Alresford, when we went to the watercress beds, we were hoping to use our ear to discover the black-headed gulls and the Mediterranean gulls and the differences between them. And we weren't particularly lucky, were we?
No, not on this occasion. No, it's a shame because, yeah, we've definitely got areas attuned to the Mediterranean gull calls now. But, yeah, none on that occasion.
No, we did see a big flock of gulls, but they were really in the distance. They were so far away that we assumed they were black-headed gulls. But they seemed to be flying in that sort of way, but they didn't feel like they were heavy enough to be herring gulls. But they were so far away, we just couldn't see them properly, and really surprised that there were none around the watercress beds where we'd seen them before. So yeah, it was a shame there was no water pipit. And you mentioned grey wagtail. I just checked my list, and I didn't get grey wagtail. I only got pied wagtail. So I think you saw it go through, and I missed it. And so,
right.
Being honest,
sorry.
I didn't put it down. That's fine. I've seen one since. But the other thing that we saw as we were walking towards, I think we decided this time, because it was quite overgrown where we normally walk alongside the fence looking at the watercress bed. So we came back out into the field and walked along the field. And I was entranced. I stopped for ages because there were, I think, 3 red kites and 2 buzzards just floating on the thermals and being quite close to each other. They not necessarily interacting, but using the same thermals. And I don't normally see red kites and buzzards in the same bit of sky without one chasing the other off. And so I managed to get some lovely video of them flying. And the red kites were actually coming down reasonably low. So I tried a bit of using the sports setting on my camera because I'm not very good with all this ISO and things. So I allowed the camera to just use the faster shutter speed to be able to get some birds in flight. I'm still learning it because getting the focus at the same time is challenging. But I was standing there for ages watching the red kites and buzzards. And you'd walked on, hadn't you, further up the field?
Where the watercress beds end, you can go over a stile and continue walking. Well, quite a bit further, I assume. We've never gone very far into that field, but we'd seen the odd Canada goose. But going into that field, saw really large numbers of them actually out on the grass. Some mallards with them.
Did you have any widgeon or anything with them as well? But
No,
did you have grey lag? I feel like there was another species that you got there that I didn't get because I didn't go through the gate, didn't go through the stile that time.
Yeah, I think there was something. Hold on,
Egyptian goose? There was
let
something
me.
extra.
Yeah, no, not Egyptian goose. Let me have a quick check of my list. Oh, it was Egyptian goose,
Oh,
which I wasn't expecting that. I think that's the first time we've ever seen Egyptian geese at Alresford watercress beds.
yeah.
Yeah, mate, I can't actually remember if they were on the ground or if they flew through.
They flew through, didn't they? Because I got them as well. And we noticed
Right.
the big white patches in their
Yeah,
wings. I can't
that's
remember
right.
if they were calling,
Yeah.
but yeah. No, but I felt there was, maybe you saw grey lag. I felt that you saw something else along with the Canada goose, but I heard Canada goose. Although, having said that, I wonder if we'd already had Canada goose earlier in the year. So for that particular day, I'll go to my checklist. That's what I need to do. Because when you're looking at your data on eBird, if you look at your year's sightings list, it only shows you the first time that you've seen the bird. So if you've already seen some of the birds, they won't show up again. But if you go to your checklist that you kept during the walk, that's where you'll see everything. Just stepping in here to clarify that last point, I forgot to say that there are filters on eBird for the way you view your sightings lists. I always have mine set to date newest first. And that way I can keep track of the species I'm adding to my year list. But you can set the filter to sort the list by date oldest first, taxonomic, alphabetic, location, and state province. I just forgot all of that when I was recording. And now, back to my list of the birds I saw at Alresford watercress beds. Yes, no, I did get Canada goose on that, and Egyptian goose, and obviously the green sandpiper. Oh yeah, and a stone chat. There was a stone chat in the field as well, and I don't. Oh, I know. That's right. No, we had seen stone chat there before, and I think I just said to you, I'm sure we saw stone chat over that part of the field last time we came, and I was scanning, and lo and behold, there was another stone chat. So I was quite pleased with that. So we've kind of got the kestrel that sits in the wires that we've seen several times in the same place, the stone chat, the green sandpiper, sometimes water pipit, obviously not this time. So it is interesting that we can go to a site and there'll be specific spots where those birds will be. We also, as we've done before, heard a song thrush singing in the background quite strongly. So that was quite nice to see as well. But it was a pretty good day. I think I got 27 species that day.
Looks like I got 31 as a result of going through into the next field along.
Yeah. So I took too long messing around with my camera. The following weekend, actually, I think it was a couple of weekends afterwards. I think there was it was quite stormy weather, so we didn't manage to get out. We'd heard of some hawfinch locally in a churchyard. It was about 20 minutes drive from us, and that's the closest that we'd had hawfinch before. So we heard that there was a flock of around 20. So this seemed too good a chance to pass up. We should go and have a look. So it was a bit of a foggy day, wasn't it? A bit foggy, drizzly. But we did manage to see some hawfinch, so that was fabulous. It's really wonderful to get those so early in the year, because once the leaves come on the trees, they tend to stay up in the canopy, and they've got a very nondescript call. It's just like a very slight sort of, and that's it. So unless you're attuned to it, you just won't pick it up. Luckily, Merlin is good at picking it up, so it can alert you that it might be there. But obviously, we wouldn't record it if Merlin said it, but we didn't find the bird. But it's reassuring if Merlin says, oh, hawfinch here, we'll have a good look round and see if we can find it. And we saw them a few times. So that was really, really good. And I also got my first nuthatch of the year there. I think you got tree creeper as well, didn't you?
I thought we both saw a tree creeper. No?
No, I saw the woodpecker eventually.
Okay, right.
Yeah, nuthatch, but I didn't get the tree creeper. And there were chaffinches. It was just about the time when the birds were starting to call quite heavily, wasn't it? And the chaffinches had started doing their song. So
Yeah,
that was really nice to hear as well.
yeah, really noticeable. It was
Um,
pretty amazing actually. So it was in the village of is it Werwell or Werewell?
Well,
Werwell, and it was yeah. With the tip off we'd had was that the Hawfinches were around the village church, so we found that, and I mean it was pretty amazing. We just barely covered any distance. It was only in the church grounds and just around the church. But looking back at my list, I had 26 species just in that really tiny area.
yeah, no, it was a really wonderful area for birds. We had coaltip calling, had the nuthatch, and tree creeper for you, chaffinch. Oh, greenfinch. As soon as we got out the car, there were greenfinches
Mm,
calling, and we don't hear
yeah.
those very often. Um, so yeah, really, really nice. Just walking through the churchyard, and obviously lots of birders had been there to try to see the hawfinches, and one of the local guys happened to stop and say to us, "Oh, have you come to see those hawfinch?" It's like, yeah, we're another bunch of people come to see the hawfinch. I mean, we weren't going to get close views; they're quite shy birds, but we got reasonable views, and we could definitely see that's what they were. From there, we went to Bransbury Common for the late afternoon, evening part of the day, in the hopes of seeing barn owl, which we've seen there before. And it was pretty muddy, wasn't it, when we got there, because it had been raining quite a lot. But and we've also seen yellowhammer there before, and we were quite delighted when we first turned up that we started. I think we were just scanning around, and we saw some yellowhammers in a hedge, a little bit far off, but we could, in the grey, misty day that it was, the yellowhammers really shone out. They looked like, I always think they look like banana toffees. They're sort of a caramel and yellow stripes, the males. Really stand out, especially in grey conditions. We went up the track to the area where the common sort of spreads out, but we thought we'd take a detour first, and we went down a lane that we hadn't been to before, because the other thing we were hoping to see was redwing and fieldfare. And we could definitely hear redwing, couldn't we?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I heard either fieldfare or redwing, but yeah, there was a field where we've seen both before on the ground, and I think we spotted some birds fly up from the ground and then into treetops. It was quite a long way off.
I had to use my zoom on my camera, and it was just because we know what fieldfare and, well, for the fieldfare, we'd be looking for hopefully grey rumps, and it was pretty far off, but we could see that. And the redwing, you'd see reddish colour under the wing, sort of along the side of the breast. Merlin definitely picked up redwing and fieldfare.
Because they were quite distant, weren't they? And we walked up a lane we'd not been along before in hopes of getting closer views of the those winter thrushes, but they never seemed to get any closer.
We were thwarted, weren't we, by the bushes? We sort of thought, oh, if we
Yes,
just turn this bit, or if we walk into this little sort of side part, we must be there. And we always seem to be the wrong side of a bank of trees or a bank of bushes. But we did see bullfinch while we were there,
mm.
which again is a bird that, I don't know, we just don't seem to see very much nowadays. It's the one that's the bird in my podcast artwork, and so I'm quite fond of them. They've got a very gentle call. Although that reminds me, just recently you were looking up collective nouns, weren't you, for birds? And what was it said that bullfinch's collective
It's
noun was?
the very inappropriate word that I discovered was a bellowing of bullfinches, which just that doesn't sound right at all.
No, if bellowing is in fact, if that's a bellow, then that's what they do.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe that's a bellow to another bullfinch. I don't know.
Maybe. Keep it down.
But the alternative collective noun that I had someone suggest for a bullfinch is a charm,
Yeah,
which
but I always associate that because we hear a charm of goldfinches, so I always associate
exactly, yeah,
a
yeah,
collective noun with goldfinches. So that's taken. We can't use that for
yeah.
bullfinches.
I think it just goes to show that these collective nouns are all a bit strange
A
and
bit suspect,
of
aren't they?
unknown origin. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what we did get there was a peregrine falcon.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We saw a really big flock of wood pigeons, I think, wasn't it? probably, I think it was about 150 birds. Tried to do a count of just, portioning them out and counting. And I got to about 150.
I put down 250.
Oh, maybe I did then. I can't remember. I know it was a lot of birds. And then
Because
we
I
saw.
normally underestimate, so I'm
Oh,
sure
I
you
must
must
have
have
done that.
put at least 250.
Yeah. But then we saw the bird that had freaked them out, and it
Mm,
came past us quite well, reasonably low, and we were able to see the mask on the face and the sort of barrel chest. It was definitely a peregrine, so that was brilliant. Because I think that was the first peregrine falcon of the year, so that was bird 68 for me. But yeah, all a bit of drama. And I've also we had a Chetty's warbler while we were at Brunsbury Common as well.
yeah, yeah.
That was my first one of the year. I didn't end up with many more birds, apart from the bird we had come to see, which was the barn owl. And we did see one, but last time we went there and saw a barn owl, we were really lucky. It was flying kind of just in the mid distance in front of us. So we got really good views of it. But this time it was in a really far field, right in the far corner. And unfortunately, we could see it was a barn owl, but that's as far as it went. We
Yeah.
actually met up with another birder and his family who were out, Dave and Helena, and their two sons. Dave is a member of the Hampshire Ornithological Society as well, and he really knows his birds. We were chatting to him for some time, and he goes out and does bird surveys, and yeah, he was really knowledgeable. But it was great. He gave us lots of tips on other sites we could go to, and what birds we might see. So that was quite a nice way to spend the end of the afternoon chatting and finding out more about where else we might go birding. So I ended up at 73 species for the year by the end of that Bramsbury Common Day. Do you know what your species total was? Yellowhammer was my 73rd bird of the year.
Oh, I was
What were
on
you on?
I was on 92.
What?
The yellow hammer.
Oh, I know why this is.
I know why this is as well.
So at the second weekend of February, we'd gone to visit my parents in Essex. And we've been a bit naughty, really. But when we go to visit my parents, we've now found this local nature reserve that we try to pop out to for a few hours because it gives us quite nice birds that we don't necessarily see nearby. So we planned to go out to this Blue House farm. But on the morning that we were going to go, it was cold, it was rainy, it was a bit miserable. And I was working hard to try and get a podcast episode out. So John went out birding without me. Do you want to tell us all about your trip to Blue House Farm in February that gave you hundreds of birds?
Well, not hundreds. Yeah, I did get 53 species on that walk at Blue House Farm. It's a Essex Wildlife Trust nature reserve, by the way, and yeah, it's a fantastic spot. It runs alongside the River Crouch. You can do a nice circular walk that's, I guess it's probably about 5 miles all the way around. It's got 3 hides. Yeah, I think the first hide in particular, all the times we've been there, we've seen a lot of birds from that hide. I got quite a few birds that were my first sightings of the year, including things like golden plover. Really big flock of golden plover. What else did I see? I think probably the first avocets that I'd seen for the year. Really big numbers of curlew, Eurasian curlew. I think that was probably the first time in 2025 I'd seen them. What else? Oh, the peregrine. You remember last year we went there. We had this unusual sighting of a peregrine falcon that just seemed to be happy standing in the mud. And I assume it's the same bird again. It was quite happy standing on the ground. So yeah, so that was great to see. Last year we had seen water pipits at Blue House Farm. A water pipit, and I was hoping I might see one again this time. But the water levels were quite a lot higher this time. It's actually really wet and muddy there. And I think where we'd seen the water pipit last year, the little islands that were above water last year were not there at all. They were underwater. So I don't think the areas that the water pipit liked were accessible to them this year. But the real highlight from that walk at Blue House Farm at the third hide, which we've found can be a little bit hit and miss in the past, in terms of what we see from there. This time, first sighting of the year, and first time I'd ever seen them in Essex, was bearded reedlings or bearded tits, which I
Yes.
know is one of your favourite birds.
I remember that you came back and you were looking very smug, and I thought, oh no, what have you seen? It was like, I've just seen some bearded reedlings. It's like, no
Um,
way.
Yeah, because I mean they weren't particularly close, but because I was seeing them from the hide, they were really nicely out in the open, probably 30 to 40 yards away. So a reasonable distance, but really nice views of them, and four of them. When I first saw them on my side of the water, feeding in the reeds, and then they one by one flew across to the opposite side of the water. So yeah, that was the highlight, and I'm sorry that you missed those. Honestly, I'm sorry that you missed those.
Well,
But
now we know they're there. If we're there and it's a nice calm day, maybe, I've got a bit more of hope of seeing them. Whereas when
yeah,
we've been there
exactly.
before, although there's been reeds, I still haven't learned enough about bearded reedlings to know where you find them. So, yeah, I'm thrilled that they potentially will be there because, we'll always go to Blue House Farm when we go to my parents if they don't mind us sneaking out for a bit. So hopefully we'll see them at a future occasion. While you were speaking, of course, that made me realise that you had also seen the peregrine then. So when we saw it the following week, it wasn't as exciting for you because you already had it. Well, it was still exciting to see because it's always exciting to
It
see a
was.
peregrine flying. But you'd had that unusual sighting of it on the ground as well.
As you said, when we saw the peregrine at Bransbury Common in Hampshire, it really put up a huge number of wood pigeons. Whereas the peregrine that I saw at Blue House Farm, nothing seemed to be concerned about it being there. It's quite different.
I wonder if it was digesting a meal. That's why it was just kind of sitting there.
Oh,
So
could be.
if
Yeah,
they know that it's eaten,
yeah,
they're not going to be as worried.
not a
If sitting there
threat.
going, I'm
Yeah.
stuffed. I cannot manage another widgeon, thank you. Yeah, so that will explain why at the end of February, when I'd got to 70, well, actually, no, we haven't got to the end of February yet, but when we've got to the end of Bransbury Common, I'd seen 73 species and you were on 90 something.
What did I say? 92, I think.
Yeah, but as we know, it's not a competition.
It's not definitely not a competition. No.
It's a little bit of a competition. Um, so then the final weekend of February, we went down to Denny Wood in the New Forest as a special treat for me, a little bit of birding for the soul, because while we still wanted to see some redwing and fieldfare, and we've seen redwing at that site before in the winter, it's one of the places that we know of where you can hand feed the wild birds. Lots of people come and put seed down and take photographs of the woodland birds close up. And if you take food with you, you might be lucky and some of them might feed from your hand. And one of the things I love doing is being a bird table. So I will just stand for hours by the car park while John goes for a walk around the wood. It was a bit rainy, a bit cold, but I had robin, blue tit, great tit, coal tit, and marsh tit all take seeds from my hand. And so that was quite thrilling. I did enjoy that. While I was there feeding the birds, some other people came up who obviously come quite regularly. One man came up with a big bag of black sunflower seeds, which I actually don't carry. I usually have sunflower hearts and suet pellets. And I do know that marsh tits particularly like walnuts, so I take those. I don't know why. Well, those particular marsh tits like walnuts. They always sort amongst all the food and pick out the walnut if they can. And the great tits and the blue tits, if they can see a peanut, they'll take the peanut. But this man had just a bag full of black sunflower seeds already in the shell. And he said he's hand fed the nuthatch before with this, which, wow, I mean, a nuthatch, I love, love, love seeing nuthatches. And the thought of having one land on your hand would just be amazing. So this man did give me some black sunflower seeds so that I could share in having a nuthatch to my hand, but it wouldn't come close to me. Just before he left, he went, "Oh, did you get it come to your hand? Because it came to mine." I was like, "I'm very happy for you." So, yeah, maybe in the future. So yeah, that was a great day for me. But it did give me marsh tit, which was my 74th bird of the year. So that's what I ended February on. It was a bit disappointing from your point of view for the redwings, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the first time we've been there and not seen redwings. And also, it's normally really good for missel thrush, but we didn't see any of those either. So that was, yeah, a bit strange and disappointing. But yeah, the little woodland birds that you mentioned, they were on fine form as they
They
normally
were.
are at Dennywood.
Yeah. What was your total then for February? Was marsh tit new for you for February?
Yeah, it was. It was. So I mentioned previously I'd got to 92. By the end of the month, I'd only added two more, so I was on 94.
Okay.
So I'd added marsh tit on that day, but also another one that I'd managed to add during the week when I'd been in London was ring-necked parakeet.
Ah, yes, yes. So I haven't got that either. So, but we ended February with you 10 ahead of me. Oh no, 20 ahead of me. There's me massaging the figures there. 20 ahead of me. So a little bit of space there for me to catch up. Like we say, it's not a race, so it's not a competition.
It's not a
But
competition.
it is a little bit. So each week I do a top 5 birds post out on social media where I ask people what was their top 5 bird sightings or birding moments, things that brought them joy during the week. And I was just looking back at my ones for February. So for the first week, it was the green sandpiper at the watercress beds, the red kites and buzzers, as I've mentioned, the 10 meadow pipits, which I hadn't expected to see, and the first of year stone chat and kestrel. And then the next week, of course, hawfinch was my top bird of the week. That was just a major excitement to get those. That we got the first of year redwing and fieldfare yellowhammers because they were really brightening up that horrible grey day. But although it was quite calm, so it wasn't totally miserable, just a little bit wet. And seeing the barn owl hunting and the sparrowhawk. Oh yeah, that's right. I had a sparrowhawk during the week on my way to work. I was just going round a roundabout, and there was a sparrowhawk. I just saw it out the corner of my eye as I went round the roundabout, actually on the road, and it was mantling. It had obviously caught something, and was holding its wings out over the prey. Because of the way it was with the flow of traffic, I'm hoping that hardly anyone would go round that part of the roundabout. Most people would be going straight through. So I'm hoping that it managed to take the prey to a safe spot because it was actually on the road. But I just saw it at the last minute as I was going around the roundabout out the corner of my eye. So that was pretty amazing to see. I always do my top 5 birds on the Sunday morning. So if I go out birding on the Sunday afternoon, then that has to be the following week's top 5 birds. And so the week in between, I hadn't really done much except look at my garden birds. But I had a lovely little flock of long-tailed tits coming through the garden, which I was really pleased to see. And a pair of dunnocks had turned up and were exploring the garden, and they're still hanging around now. So they must be, I'm hoping, going to be nesting nearby. And I had 16 wood pigeons in my garden at one time, which for my small garden, that's quite a number to have all in at once. But, you put the food out, they'll be there. And then my last week of the month, my top bird was the marsh tit, feeding from my hand. And then I've got some others, but I think they've crept into March, so I won't say about the rest of those because that'll be the next episode that we do about the birding diaries. So you'll have to wait and hear those for next month. Did you have any top birding moments from the whole month?
Probably two, I reckon. So one would be the bearded reedlings, the bearded tits that I saw at Blue House Farm in Essex, and the other one was seeing the hawfinches in Hampshire, because both of those species we really don't see them that often. I think, to be honest, if we see them once or twice in a calendar year, we're doing quite well. So yeah, so to have seen both of those in February in the same month, yeah, they will be my February highlights, I think.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much for joining me on this episode to talk through the bird sightings that we'd seen in February. I'm hoping that you'll join me for the March episode when that comes up. We've been quite busy during March, and we've been out to some of our favourite birding sites, but you'll have to wait to hear about those when that episode comes out. Thanks again, John, for joining us.
Thank you.
What birds have brought you joy recently? You know I love to hear about them, so do let me know. And look out for my weekly posts asking what your top 5 birds or birding moments from the past week have been. I've found that sharing mine helps me notice the details of the wild world around me. Of course, it's lovely to see a lifer bird, but recognising those small moments, like the wren that started singing in the morning, or the long-tailed tit collecting feathers for a nest, emphasises the richness of the natural world. Spring has arrived, and in this month's Casual Birder Bird Club, members shared their latest sightings. We heard from Jessica, who had seen 5 lifers, including Brolga, a type of crane, on a coastal journey in Victoria, Australia. Christina, who went on a nighttime walk listening for owls in Germany, and Mary Lee, who had noticed pigeons nesting in a flower basket outside a restaurant in Vancouver. Closer to home, Mike told us of oyster catchers starting to build nests at his workplace. Sean has been recording nighttime calls of returning Manx shearwaters and other migrating birds in Scotland. Chris had seen his first sand martin of the season in Northern Ireland, and Harry had seen hawfinch in Gloucestershire. If meeting with friendly people online each month to share our bird sightings sounds like something you'd like to be part of, sign up to the Casual Birder Bird Club in the episode notes. We'd love you to join us. My thanks to Randy Braun for designing the artwork for the show. The theme music is Short Sleeve Shirt by the Drones. Thanks to them for letting me use it. Check out their website at dronesmusic.net. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you'll join me again for another episode of the Casual Birder podcast.